When you think of cowboys, you picture grit, guns, dust, but what you probably don't picture is what was under all that. And that's because, more often than not, there wasn't much at all. Cowboy underwear, if it existed, wasn't what you'd call supportive. It was itchy. It was rare, and it smelled like history. This is the dirty truth, layer by grimy layer. The Long John myth in movies. Cowboys always pull on those classic long white union suits. Neck to ankle, one piece, flap in the back, clean and iconic. That's mostly fantasy. Yes, long johns existed, especially during the winter. They were usually made of wool, cotton, or flannel if you were lucky bit. They weren't white, they weren't clean, and they weren't worn underneath anything fresh. In summer, forget it. A second layer meant more sweat, more stink, and more friction in all the wrong places. Most cowboys just skip the underwear completely. Chafing, rashes, and dust in all the wrong places. You ride for 14 hours a day on a leather saddle. You sleep in your clothes. You sweat buckets, and you don't bathe more than once a month. Now imagine all that without underwear. Cowboys dealt with raw thigh saddle sores, rashes from unwashed denim, and permanent dust lines in, well, Private Regent. Some tried to improvise, wrapping bandanas or old shirts for padding. Others stuffed wool into places it didn't belong. None of it helped for long. It just added layers of stink to the suffering. Shared clothes, shared problems. Most cowboys weren't rich. They owned one or two shirts, a single pair of pants, maybe a coat, and if they had long underwear, it got passed around like a spare blanket. On some cattle drives, cowboys shared clothing, especially when someone's gear got wet or torn. That meant your friend's sweat was your new lining. His rash, maybe yours tomorrow. His smell, already spreading, and no one washed anything regularly. They just aired it out over a fire and called it good. The wool itch if you were lucky enough to have proper undergarments. They were probably wool. And if you've never worn wool in 100 heat while riding a horse, don't. Wool at ched. It held onto sweat. It never truly dried. And once it got wet, it smelled like a wet animal, because it basically was. Some cowboys lined the inside with newspaper to avoid the itch. Others just scratched until the skin peeled off. One cowboy was said to have traded a full month's pay for cotton drawers, not because they were fancy, but because they were less likely to cause a rash that could kill you. The infamous flaplets talk about the back flap. Yes, it was real. Yes, it served a purpose. Cowboys didn't have time to strip layers in freezing cold just to. But the problem, flaps didn't always close right. Buttons broke, wind got in. Accidents happened. Many cowboys just cut a slit in the back of their pants and made do. One journal entry reads, "Wind hits you wrong and suddenly everyone knows what brand your behind wears." Another, "I sat too close to the fire, lost my dignity and half my underflap." So did cowboys wear underwear? Sometimes. Barely. And always begrudgingly. What mattered wasn't modesty. It was whether your pants stayed up, your saddle didn't rub you raw, and if you could still walk after a 10-hour ride. And for many, that meant no underwear at all. Imagine this, you're riding across open plains under the burning sun. You haven't bathed into weeks. Your clothes are soaked with sweat, dust, and horsehair. And underneath it all, you're either wearing itchy wool underwear or nothing at all. Either way, one thing is guaranteed. You stink, not just a little. We're talking legendary, trail clearing, burn the shirt levels of funk. This is what happened when cowboys didn't wash for weeks. Sweat, saddle, and skin. A weary cowboy sweated constantly. Long rides under the sun, heavy labor, thick layers. No breathable fabrics. No deodorant, and definitely no fresh underwear. Sweat soaked their pants. It dripped down their legs. It got trapped in their boots. And if they were wearing long johns, they became sponges, heavy, damp, and permanently fused to skin. Some riders said the smell was so strong, horses turned away. Others joked you could tell how long someone had been on the trail just by sniffing them from 10 feet away. Laundry. What laundry? Washing clothes wasn't a regular thing. It was a luxury. Why? Water was for drinking. Soap was rare. Time was shortened. No cowboy wanted to be seen stripping down at the river, so most of them didn't wash, or if they did, they just rinsed their clothes in the creek and slapped them on wet. Some tried to dry them over a fire, which often ended with scorch marks or accidental pants fires. And underwear. If it was lucky, it got aired out on a fence post. If not, it was just reworn, smell and all. The smell of the trail cowboys carried a particular scent. It was a mix of sweet-a-lother horrifofo, something they called simply trail funk. The inside of long johns held onto every part of that. The wool trapped it. The seams soaked it in. And after weeks in the saddle, the whole outfit smelled like it was alive. One cowboy claimed, "I left my shirt on a fence overnight. The coyotes wouldn't touch it." Another said, "If you could smell me, I wasn't dead yet." Shared sleeping, shared smell. Cowboys often slept side by side, for warmth, for safety, or because space was tight. That meant your neighbors. Underwear was your new reality. The smell crept into bedrolls, saddle blankets, even dreams. Some wrapped extra clothes around their faces just to breathe. Others claimed the scent built character. And then there were the jokes. "You smell like trail stew and horse belly." "Your drawers could walk to town without you." "You ain't alone." "Your underwear's got a ghost in it." When the underwear gave up after weeks of wear, cowboy underwear started falling apart. The wool tore, the seams split, the drawstrings snapped. And once that happened, they either patched it with whatever they had, raw hide, rope, spare bootlaces, or just let it go and went commando. Some used newspaper for padding. Others stole flour sacks from chuck wagons. There's even a story of a cowboy cutting armholes in a spare shirt and calling it improvised. Under Armour. Necessity is the mother of invention. And stink-proof underwear. That was still centuries away. When things got too bad, when the itching, chafing, and stench crossed a line, cowboys didn't complain. They got creative. Because out there, you didn't ride to town for underwear advice. You reached into your saddlebag, looked at what you had, and started experimenting. What followed was a whole frontier of homemade fixes, bizarre tricks, and some truly questionable choices. Grease, fat, and the cowboy lotion. One of the most common fixes was lard. Yep, animal fat. Cowboys rubbed bacon grease, tallow, or even bear fat into the inside of their pants, and sometimes directly on their skin. The goal? Stop the rubbing, soften the fabric, kill whatever was growing down there. Did it help? Sometimes. But it came with side effects. Attracted flea, smelled worse in heat and often melted, soaking into everything. And cowboy claimed his pants smelled like fried breakfast until sundown. Another said he used chicken grease and couldn't sit near a fire for 2 days. Dust as dry powder. Since talcum powder wasn't exactly stocked on the prairie, cowboys made do. They used wood ash, crushed limestone, reed, prairie clay, even powdered soap if they had any. They'd dust it inside their pants, hoping it would dry the sweat and ease the rubbing. Sometimes it worked. Other times it turned to mud, right where you didn't want mud. Still, it beat doing nothing. One ranch hand said, "I dusted myself with trail dirt, worked until it rained. Bandana, briefs, and shirt, padding, no underwear. No problem. Just repurpose what you had." Some cowboys folded bandanas into makeshift padding. Others tied shirts around their waists, tucking them into pants for added layer. There's even a documented case of a cowpoke who cut his saddlebag liner in half and wore it as trail shorts. It didn't breathe. It didn't bend. But it saved him a week of walking like a bow-legged lizard. Improvisation was key, and shame was optional. Saddle adjustments and sore strategies. Many cowboys simply modified the saddle, not themselves. Extra padding with saddle blankets, greased leather to reduce frictions, switching stirrup lengths to favor one side of the body end. If that didn't help, they'd ride standing, or twist sideways, or tie a rolled-up sock under one thigh like a cushion. Not elegant, not effective, but less painful than skin-on saddle contact. Some men rode with 3 layers of pants, not for warmth, but to keep their thighs from blistering. Raw smoke, whiskey, and fire as disinfectant. When infection came, or the smell became unbearable, cowboys took drastic measures. Whiskey was poured into the pants. Pants were thrown into fires briefly to burn off the evil. Smoke baths, standing near the fire in hopes the smoke would kill the odor. One man reportedly lit a sage bundle and cleansed his trousers with it while chanting. Another claimed his underlayer was so possessed with stink, only fire Could fix it. It didn't always work, but it gave others in camp a good laugh. And sometimes, that was the real medicine. When in doubt, remove it all. Eventually, most cowboys just gave up. The underwear got thrown into a ravine. The itchy wool was left behind in a trail town outhouse. And from then on, it was riding natural. The only downside, more chafing, more stinkless insulation in the winter. But too many, it was worth it. As one journal noted, I rode freer without drawers, but I rode faster when something bit me, even without stores or laundry. Cowboys did what they could, not because it worked perfectly, but because they had no choice out there. Comfort wasn't the goal, just survival. And if you smelled like a smoked goat wrapped in leather, well, so did everyone else. For decades, cowboy underwear was a myth, a joke, or a stinky, scratchy burden. But then, something changed. Not all at once, not across every ranch. But gradually. From saloons to saddle posts, cowboys began to get cleaner. And, for the first time, some of them wore real underwear. How did it happen? With time, towns, soap, and shame, civilization caught up as the West filled with settlers, railroads, and general stores. Cowboys had more access to things like commercial soap, cotton, underwear, hut baths, and women who absolutely refused to tolerate trail funk. New towns popped up along cattle drives. Hotels offered bath and shave packages. Bathhouses charged 25 cents for warm water and a towel. Soap extra. For the first time, clean was an option. It wasn't always taken, but it was there. And slowly, it began to stick. Underwear became a business. By the late 1800s, catalogs like Sears, Roebuck & Co. started offering cotton union suits, flannel drawers, elastic braces, even ventilated undergarments for hot climate. They came in packages. With sizes, with ads that promised no more chafing. Some cowboys laughed it off. Others quietly sent in their orders. One diary entry from 1897 reads, "Received 2 sets of cottons from Kansas City. Don't itch, don't stink. Keeping these, that was high praise." Soap became statusly in clothes, especially clean underwear, became a mark of pride. Townsfolk judged newcomers by the smell. Saloon girls joked about trail stew if you got too close. Even cowboys started ranking each other based on stink. The ones who bathed more often got invited to poker night. The ones who didn't slept near the horses. Soap stopped being rare and started being expected. Bars of lye, pine tar, and cowboy lavender, a real thing, made the rounds. No one wanted to be the last one still riding with wool welded to their thighs. The military effect. Many cowboys eventually served in the military, and the military came with uniforms, inspections, and rules. Rules like bathe once a week, wear issued underwear, wash your garments, or get detail duty. These habits didn't disappear after discharge. Soldiers turned cowboys brought that discipline back to the range. Suddenly, underwear wasn't a nuisance. It was standard gear, especially cotton drawers, cooler, softer, cheaper. By 1900, even ranch supply stores were selling them in bulk. The death of the flap, famous back flap union suit, stuck around for a while. But it wasn't loved. It leaked. It sagged. It failed at all the wrong moments. Eventually, cowboys adopted two-piece sets, long undershirts and drawstring pants, easier to manage, less embarrassing. And as buttons became sturdier, an elastic was introduced. The modern version of cowboy underwear was born, functional, washable, and finally, somewhat respectable. The last of the stink rider snit. All cowboys changed. Some clung to the old ways. No underwear, no soap, no shame. They bragged about sleeping in the same shirt for a month, about surviving without ever changing their pants. About scaring off bears with nothing but odor. But those men were fewer and fewer. As the world modernized, cowboy culture evolved, still rugged, still wild, but just a bit cleaner. One cowpoke famously said in 1912, "Used to ride dirty. Then I got married. Now I wash more than my horse." Final thought: the dirty history of cowboy underwear isn't just about clothing. It's about life without comfort. About sweat, stink, survival, and doing whatever it took to keep riding. They scratched, they suffered, they adapted. And eventually, they changed. But deep down, every cowboy knew if your boots hurt, you could ride through it. If your shirt itched, you could sweat it out. But if your underwear turned against you, the whole trail turned ugly. And that, partner, is the real reason they finally cleaned up.